Hi, it's Kamon Reynolds, and welcome to tonight's live chat. These are pretty random chats, and one thing that I'll be reining in the near future. But I may have said that before. Trying to do as we can, and things are wild here. Things are crazy busy and good, though. A lot of good things happening, a lot of exciting things in the industry, and I'm happy to share some of that with you tonight. And glad to take your questions. Lots of winter prep going on in Tennessee and the surrounding regions. I just got back last night, last night on from the Missouri Beekeepers Association. Got to see several of you there, and that was quite a bit of fun. And I'll be seeing some of you in Texas very soon, and another part of Missouri. And I think that's done for the year. I've really enjoyed it, but packed too many in this year. Definitely going to be cutting back on some of the speaking gigs. Hey, Houston. We are definitely looking forward to seeing you guys down. I've never been to Texas before, so this is going to be a first, and might be the last. I don't know. We'll see. No, I'm sure it'll be great. It looks like a great conference too. I've been to a bunch of them. The speaker lineup is pretty cool. Not trying to be self-serving, but it's different. That's what's cool about it. All right, everyone's popping in. All right, Sevierville, Tennessee. I'll actually be headed out to Sevierville here in a couple of days to finally iron out the catering options for 2023. The old guy running it was let go in a nice way, sort of. And now we've got to talk to the new guy. So hopefully we'll get some progress on that. Australia, North California, Memphis. All right, all over the place. And before we get into the questions and answers too much, I just wanted to say that we are working up to 1,400 people for the Hive Life Conference right now. That's including the kids sponsorship, which is 26 kids that are coming, and we have 1,300 and something, very close to 1,400. But with the kids, we are just like at 1,400 people. We will likely be cutting it off around 1,500. I think Laura and I have been discussing this. We may go to 1,600, and that's just so as there inevitably is always some cancellations that'll still put us at 1,500 people, which is kind of our goal. So yeah, pretty exciting. I also wanted to share this with you really quick. So let me tilt this forward and check this out. So can't show all of it to you. But right there is the floor plan for the trade show. That's 42,000 square feet. So pretty excited about that. And it is going to be stupid big. There's just going to be so much bee stuff. And I just talked to, I mean, literally 7 days a week work right now, not just for the conference, but everything in general. And we just landed a company that is going to do digital pictures for everybody. So you get in front of it. It's Maple Bend Bee Supply, and they also run a event company as well. So they're going to bring in this nice camera setup, and it's digitally going to put like the Hive Life logo and stuff around you, and you can get your pictures taken automatically with your bee buddies or Bob Benny or Randy McCaffrey if you're desperate just to get a picture with somebody. And you can it'll send it directly to your email. A really high quality photo, look really cool, kind of like what they do for like the Tennessee Titans and other sporting events, that kind of thing. All right, so Zelma B is dealing with this late season swarm and just finished watching a couple of your older videos dealing with this issue in Tampa, Florida. Yeah, those late season swarms, I never can get them to really do well. Sometimes what I'll do is if it's like August, late August, early September, we'll hive them if I have some drawn comb, see if I can get a little bit of forward progress, but they're usually still so small that I can't overwinter them successfully. And I will just combine them with another colony and see if they'll let both queens lay. And sometimes they will. Sometimes they will choose one over the other. But it's if both queens look good, we'll just let the bees sort it out. It's kind of how I deal with it. Is it a good idea to take the honey from the bees or should I leave the honey to the bees? Well, depends on the time of the year and location. This time of the year, I'm not pulling any honey. If you have a little bit of season left and you've made a good bit of fall honey and there's excess, yeah, you can take it. Some beekeepers take all of it and then feed heavily very quickly. But I'm not one of those. I usually leave everything for the bees. Just take spring honey here. All right, so you're in Alabama. Yeah, the attempts are going crazy, fixing to you didn't pull any this spring. Okay, well if there's a ton of honey on there, then yeah, take a good bit, and you still, if you're in Alabama, you have time to feed. So that you know what the bees look like, and yeah, I guess it's like our fall flow is too strong to leave it on. Heck, your summer flow is too strong to leave it on. But he lives in that cotton and soybean irrigated farmland area, and they produce a lot of nectar down there. Jed Sackett. I just wanted to know how things are going with your Apame hives. I've been watching your videos and noticed this summer you haven't done any videos with them. Thanks. Yeah, Jed, I haven't done a lot of videos on a lot of different things, but they are working really good. They're good hives. As far as insulated hive goes, I can't say anything. As far as insulative hives go, they are really good. They're tough and they're pricey. That's the biggest con with them. They definitely are made to last and durable. I love the pollen trap. I like having access to the screen bottom board. That's really nice. You can use regular wooden boxes on top of them for honey supers. Everything, I like how everything closes and clamps down together. They're easy to move. I like the handles on them. The biggest cons are the price, and then I'm not a huge fan of the frames that come with them, just because they're plastic and they slide around. The bees will use them just fine, but I'm just not a plastic frame person. And the feeders can work good, but I like having feeders that are larger than 1 gallon. And I also don't like top feeders because it's something I have to move off every time I get into that box. That's why I like frame feeders so much, is because I can just open up the lid and get right to it. So, but those aren't big deals. I mean, it's just matter of personal preference on technique. But the Apame hives are very good hives, and if I had a preference, all things being created equal with insulative um, hives, Apame would be my first choice. All right, I got to delete somebody really quick. All right, there we go. Deleted. Hey, Cayman, do you have any knowledge of Saskatraz bees? Do they winter with large clusters? Do they eat a lot of food like Italians? From what I've been told, I've only owned two Saskatraz queens, and they didn't seem to overwinter with a big cluster. And I don't think they're technically supposed to. I think they're supposed to be more of a winter hardy bee, being from up in Canada. It doesn't mean they have really tiny clusters, but not like your commercial package bee and pollination Italian, which will just raise bees to a dangerous level at times. So I don't think they're an aggressive one, but I'm not super familiar with Saskatraz and using them. Definitely not the best person to ask. Hey, Cayman, I have removed my supers for the season. I put the frames in a freezer because the garage is full of moss. Any tips to get rid of the moss so I can store my frames in the garage? Thanks. Hey, Litecoin Bull, there is nothing that you can do to get rid of all of the moss that are out there that are wanting to do damage. Greater wax moss and lesser wax moss are extremely common and do really good. Once the temps get below or really close to freezing, though, they're a non issue. So I don't know where you're at. However, mice are an issue, and you can use something like Paramoth or Surtan, which is a BT, but then you have to spray all of your combs, and that BT will attack and eat the eggs and larvae as they start to emerge from the egg. But the Paramoth can work good if you're okay with using that product. But as far as getting rid of the moss, there's nothing that any beekeeper can do to eliminate all the moss that are out there. But um, there is an illegal product that I'm aware of, but it's really nasty and can kill the beekeeper if it's not used appropriately. So I don't use that, and I don't recommend it either. And I'm definitely not going to tell you the name of it. I got to be really careful with that. And it also builds up junk in your honey supers as well, and I'm definitely not cool with that. Hey, Cayman, how early can you put on sugar bricks or solid feed? So typically around November in Tennessee is when I feel like it. Um, the sugar brick recipe that I use, and you can use it for your form boards like the gosh dang it. So I can't remember what they're called. You got your sugar bricks, and then you have the boards. So you put the sugar boards or whatever you put on top, and you can just form that up. You just use 10 pounds of sugar to 1 cup of water. And if you mix that together, you get like a wet sand fill, and you just pack it into your sugar boards, or you make it into bricks, or however you want to apply that. Heck, you could just take a piece of newspaper and mound that up. But I usually find that if I do it too early in the season, the bees will kick some of it out. I don't know why that is, but November's a good time for me. You're a little bit north, maybe, so you can do it earlier. I don't know. Um, I bet it'd be good this time of the year. Hey, Cayman, with Natalie and Myra winning everything, I think I'll stay home. Can I get a refund? So you're talking about the honey show. So that's one of the things that you know I don't know if they will or not. There's a lot of people coming to the honey show in a lot of categories this year. So it's done by the Welsh honey judging down there in Georgia, and it's going to be a lot of fun. The winner is going to get a nice um, trophy on a marble stand made in the USA. Also, a nice ribbon and a free ride to 2024's conference. And the runner up grand champion will get a full ride as well, but won't get the trophy. Hey, Cayman, Keegan, again for the Air Force. No way I'm missing your live chat. Hey, from Florida. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. And yeah, we're real random with these things. Sorry, everybody. I have not produced a lot of videos lately. I just have not had the time. I have, literally, church on Sunday is about the only thing that I do for myself right now. And I've spent 4 hours midday on the phone for the conference today. That's how busy it is right now with Hive Life. And I'm working on getting some personnel to help me, and it's getting better. But we're still needing to do a lot to manage this thing, which has turned into quite the beast. And because of its popularity, it's created a lot of good opportunities, but also a lot more work. And so fun. All right. Big fan. Just discovered your channel. Moving to central southern Tennessee within the year. Wayne County. We'll be soaking up a lot of your content. Hey, James, thanks for saying so and for hopping on the live chat tonight. We do this from time to time, maybe 2 times a month. I'm going to try to get it on a schedule. And if you have any questions about Tennessee beekeeping, drop them. So someone says, how about those vols? I say, hey, I figure you deserve a win after 15 years of getting bludgeoned by the number one team in the country. But all jokes aside, good for the Vols and all that kind of stuff. If Alabama's going to lose to the team, to a team, the Vols is the team I would go for because I love the state that I live in. I was raised to roll tide, but I would like to see Tennessee do good. And now that they've beat Alabama, if they are going to knock Alabama out of a championship run again, um, then they better not mess up and lose to like Vanderbilt or something like that. Yeah, they better go do something with it. Bring a national championship to Tennessee. Hey, Etienne. I hope it's not too cold up there already, but we are really looking forward to meeting you down here in Tennessee. And I've been talking a lot about you, so your ears are probably burning. It's not the cold causing that ear burn. That's me talking about you at these conferences where I go and people ask me about getting bees ready for winter, and I've been trying to send some of them over your way. All right, going back to some questions. Hey, Laurel, what's your recommendation on dealing with the bees backfilling the brood area and the hive is still on the light side? Um, I don't know where you're at, James, but this time of the year, it is time to get some weight on the colonies. And just if you have to, unless you're like in the deep south or something, I'm wanting my bees to start slowing down on brood production this time of the year, anyways, and they definitely need the weight. So, um, backfill that brood nest right now. You wouldn't want to do that at any other time of the year, but this time of the year, it's not going to cause them to swarm unless you're in a totally different location. If you're like in Australia or New Zealand or something like that, but here in the U.S., most places are shutting down, and definitely in Tennessee, we need to get feed on them and get those colonies heavy. Like to see 8 to 9 frames full of food if it's a good sized colony. Hey, Cayman, any tricks to making bees build comb even when they don't want to? Think we might figure out a procedure that will make a hive build wax as much as they would if they had just swarmed. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. One is by making shook swarms. Can you give me that tea, please? Shook swarms, and that's where, but you have to go with nature. We can only do so much. Everything that works for bees is because we're mimicking nature. So I can get bees to draw comb, but only if nature basically will allow me to. And so, for an example, if there's no pollen coming in, which happens in my location from July and most of August and part of late June, that's 2 months where the bees are extremely reluctant to grow their population forward. It's not that they won't, but since there's not a lot of natural resources out there, they're more reluctant. If they have a lot of bee bread, so pollen that's been stored away in the combs coming from building up through spring and socking it away, just like they do turning nectar into honey and socking that away. If they have a lot of that resource and we create a situation where they need it desperately, they'll do it. That would be like creating a shook swarm, where basically you go in there and you shake bees out and you have your new queen. You shake about 4 pounds of bees into a new location and you create a new split. It's almost like your own package or like and putting a swarm in there. And what I would do in this situation, if there wasn't a lot of pollen coming in, then I would make sure they got a couple frames of bee bread and you can feed them a tiny patty. If there's small high beetle pressure, it needs to be pretty thin strips so they can get a lot of surface area. And then you feed them very thin sugar syrup. It doesn't even have to be 1 to 1, but you definitely need to make sure there's never a shortage, and the bees are desperate in that colony that you don't give any comb to except the frames of bee bread, and they will draw that out. So that's one thing that you can do, or just do it within your natural season. And some people, like where Gus Mitchell is down in Memphis, they have extended cotton flows and soybean flows. So where we're done with honey flows in middle of June, they're getting flows in all through July and stuff like that, and June. So that they can draw a lot more comb down there than we can, and they also get pollens from those plants. I'll take the mint, please, Laurel. And so a lot depends on your location and what it will give you. One of the things that I do, and this works extremely well, but this is a timing thing, you have to be aggressive about this, is our honey flow is almost always done by the second week of June. So if I want to get the most out of my bees that I can, especially if I want to draw a comb, we get that honey off immediately and we drop them down to where there's this like triple deep worth of bees going down into one deep box because we run single brood management. And then we pull up a frame of eggs or larvae up into a second deep box that's foundation and we feed them like mad. I mean, we're not talking 2 or 3 gallons, we're talking like 5 or 6 gallons or more. And then once they draw that out almost all the way, we add another box and it works really good. Just in my yard here at the house, I drew 60 or 70 deep boxes after the honey flow. But you have to do it quickly because if I wait to do it in late July after the bees haven't had pollen for a while, the population declines and the older bees are the ones that draw your combs. So you got to have a decent old bee population, and bees in summer do not live as long as bees in spring. So you lose out on some of their lifespan to do that work for you. All right. So hope that somewhat answered your question, but there's not a lot of cut and dry answers for like all locations, and I try to give somewhat of a variable approach on it. Hey, Cayman, it's Pete from Vegas Bees, Joshua Tree. One of our hives got overwhelmed by wax moss last week. It happened, seemed really fast. What advice do you have for dealing with wax moss? God bless. Keep the bees in the hives; they'll do the best job of it. And if a colony gets weak and they're going downhill and they're no good, shake them out, combine them if they're not disease ridden or anything like that, and store your combs in a freezer or use paramoth or something like that. Um, Moths like it dark. They're like bees. So a lot of times, if you would have gone into those boxes that were overridden with wax moss, like every time, if you were to take that and stick it in an environment that had daylight running through those frames and the frames weren't really close up against each other, that would eliminate almost all of wax moss problems, unless there was like a lot of bee bread and stuff in there. But um, you just have to get to it before the moths do. There's really no other way to avoid it. And like I said before, you cannot trap enough of them to eliminate. All it takes is a couple. They lay a lot of eggs apiece. Hmm. All right, scrolling through. I may have missed some questions, so I'm going to scroll back up. All right, Cayman, please share your opinion. Motherload feeders filled with sugar for winter. Michigan beekeeper, thank you and the wife for your generous teaching. We're just resharing information. A lot of what I know, I've learned from other guys. So we're just trying to pass it on and build this beekeeping industry back up. So as far as doing that, I'm not sure that'll work really good because in Michigan and in Tennessee too, those bees aren't going to break cluster to go over to that motherload feeder, that frame feeder, and get to that sugar. You really need it. If the clusters right here in the center of the box, they will go up over the tops of the frames, and you really need that sugar right there on top where they're making contact with it. If it's over to the right or the far left of them, unless you get some really mild weather, which I know you don't, they're not going to be able to go over there unless it's a massive colony. I mean, if you have like 12 frame cluster in a 10 frame box, and then you have a frame feeder taking up 2 frames or a frame, then maybe it would work because the bees can regulate so much of the temperature. But you're talking a massive cluster there. And I also would say that you would need an insulated board to help keep that heat in too. So I don't think that will work very good. Um, I, I don't think it will. But that's frame feeders. That's the biggest con, in my opinion, on a frame feeder is in cooler weather, bees are reluctant to go to the edge of the box to get it. But during most of the season, frame feeders are definitely my favorite, and I love Motherload because the quality is so good. They'll be at our conference this year selling quite a bit of stuff and have some really nice commercial pricing for hobby beekeepers and commercial guys alike. Okay. Hmm. So this weekend, when I was in Missouri at their state association, talking with Corey Stevens and Natalie Summers, received the Young Beekeeper of the state of Missouri award, and well deserved, I think. Um, she's a good example of what young ladies and just young people in general are capable of, already grafting and splitting and doing a lot and inspiring a lot of other young beekeepers to take up and continue on with beekeeping, and looking forward to having her at Hive Life again as another role model, and several other young men and women. So real quick before I forget, I wanted to say that I will be in Texas speaking with Dr. Samuel Ramsey and Cameron Jack and Blake Shook and myself as the keynotes. We will be talking about all kinds of stuff there at the Texas Beekeepers Association. That's November 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And so I'll be spending my birthday down doing what I love, beekeeping deep in the heart of Texas. So I'll be down there. I'll be in Joplin, Missouri, the 14th and 15th, I believe, of both of these are in November. Joplin is the 12th of, and just a 1 day thing in Missouri, and I'll be the keynote speaker there. Randy Oliver will be zooming in, and there'll be a couple other speakers as well. So, and then that finishes me up for the rest of the season. And woo, what a ride it's been. So I'll be booking less stuff next year. That's for sure. Washington, when should you switch from 1-to-1 syrup to 2-to-1? Can sugar syrup contribute to condensation in the hives in the fall? Love your channel. Learned so much. Hey, Greg, now is the time to switch to 2-to-1. If you have a hard time mixing it, go to 5 pounds of sugar to 3 pounds of water, because 2-to-1 can be really difficult to get sometimes all the sugar to stay in suspension because it's just so saturated. So, and a lot of it depends on your water, right? If you have a heavy mineral content in your water, that's where the 2-to-1 especially has issues with the sugar staying in. But go ahead and switch over right now. It's late in your season. It can contribute to some condensation in the hives and fall, but 2-to-1 doesn't take a lot of work for a healthy colony to condense down the rest of the way. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. If it's big, strong colonies, I fed them even December. I don't recommend it. I like to get it over with in October or early November. Um, but 2-to-1 or 5-to-3 would be probably easier. Just make sure you heat the water up really hot. I heat it up to a boil whenever we make 2-to-1 with granulated sugar, because it just it helps so much. And some people will tell you that it'll cause HMF and all that stuff. It takes longer than that. Once that sugar hits and starts rapidly cooling that water, it's not creating HMF. It takes a lot more than that to cause that, which can damage your bees. But yeah, I want to worry about the moisture and condensation in the hives unless you're doing it crazy late in the season. And I think in Washington, that region, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have fairly mild winters, but I could be wrong about your location. It's been a while since I talked to my buddy in Washington. Finished treating with Apivar last week. 3 hives still have high counts. 9, 20, and 18. Retreating with Formic Pro. Any hope? There is hope. 9, 20, and 18. Um, Getting that Formic on there quickly is important. Liberty, Queen Bee. I hate to hear that, but I've heard that more and more with Apivar. Very frustrating. You spend a lot of money on those strips, and you expect, it'd be nice to actually get what you pay for. That seems to be a thing that's getting less and less common in the US and excessively frustrating. Pay good money. I want good results. After about 10 seasons, and doggone it, there it jumped on me. There we go. About 10 seasons of beekeeping, a sting sent me to the hospital all of a sudden. Now I have an EpiPen. Do you know of any safety tips? Sorry to hear that, Shane. Wow. I have heard of these kind of things happening. Sometimes I have heard that it could be due to a change in medication. There are things that happen to our bodies, stress related, other things that can trigger these events that where we've had no issues for years and years. I know people who have had really bad reactions that eventually get over it. It takes several years for them to. There's people who have been almost completely immune for decades and all of a sudden have a bad reaction. It's not a bad idea to have epinephrine in some form or fashion, whether it's an EpiPen or one of the cheaper versions out there, um, for sure. But it's always good to have some available. Even if it's not you, maybe your neighbor gets stung, and that way they can't blame you for what probably wasn't your bees in the first place. But safety tips is a good bee suit. Get a good one, and mm, stay full suited up, and keep the bees far enough away from your house so when you're doing your garden and all your other chores, they're not you're not in their flight path and getting drilled for not even being in the beehive. All right. So Adam Dinsmore, Japanese hornets get my honeybees. Should I worry about this problem? So Adam, those more than likely are European hornets. They look fairly similar and they're very large as well. They're not quite as large as the Japanese hornet, and the Japanese currently are have been seen in the northwest, but they feel like they've got them under control, and hopefully they do. But the European hornets can damage late in the season. That's one of the reasons why, as beekeepers, we have to do everything we can, because August and especially September and early October are brutal months for bees, because Varroa populations, if we don't manage them, they're going up. Bee population naturally is going down. So the ratios of mite to bee really start getting skewed. Plus, you have yellow jackets, European hornets, every type of insect and mammal, skunks, everything's trying to fatten up to go into the end of the season. And honeybees are a great source of nutrition. So, definitely, in my opinion, September, late August, early October, those are the toughest months for beekeepers pretty much across the board in the United States. How would I deal with this? If I could track the nest down, which we have done before, and drop some tannerite in it or some organic kerosene, that seems to work really good. Um, yeah, that's a good way to deal with it. You can actually use more natural stuff than that, but eliminating the nest is number one. There's traps you can put out there um, that will not attract bees. They're like meat traps, and that'll work pretty good. About what temp will bees stop taking from bucket feeders? Once it gets below 50 degrees, a lot of it depends on the colony. Are you looking at a strong 8 to 10 frame or bigger cluster in like 1 10 frame box? If they're packed and they're able to really regulate the temperature and warm that bucket feeder up, they'll take it late in the season in pretty cool temperatures. You see Ian Stepler up there with his bucket feeders, but they're packed hives, and they're taking it when there's snow on the ground. And a lot depends on the strength of the colony and how it's situated, but um, definitely in the 50s, I've had mine take it no problem. Be original, Tennessee Tim. Sorry I'm late. Been making apple butter. Hey, I'm right behind you. We've got like 2 bushels of apples from a guy in, I think it's Pikesville, Tennessee. And man, those Golden Delicious and Jonathan's are always a big hit. Love those things. Apple butter, apple pie. We're all eating like 2 apples a day. We'll eventually get sick of them, but um, I love apple season. Came in New York, Apivar for the first time. How important is it to remove the strips before winter? My strips went in October 1st after fall supers came off. So October 1st, so you'll be pulling those. It's still a ways out. If you get a warm day in New York, I imagine you get some days that are in the 40s or 50s, even late in the season, kind of a fluke day. See if you can get in there and yank those strips out after they've been in there for the length of time that they say that they're supposed to be in there. It is really important because we don't want mites getting immune to those things. And also, there is research showing that leaving those strips in does cause the bees to not overwinter as good. So you just don't want them. It's not that a little bit like what you're doing right now is going to harm your bees, not at all. But as they start overwintering for multiple months, especially in New York, those strips can be causing issues, because the problem is there are some chemicals in those strips that the bees have to detoxify out of their system, and those winter bees don't need to be having to do that all winter long. So taking those strips out would be really good for the bees, and then hitting them with a little bit of oxalic acid vapor if you have that option as a cleanup would be great. All right, Richard Zimmer. Wax moths are actually quite a bit larger, but there's some variables. So you have a lesser wax moth and a greater wax moth. And so the greater wax moth larvae are quite large. They're a good inch and quite fat, probably over an eighth of an inch um, in diameter. And then the lesser wax moths are probably maxing out 3/4 of inch, much skinnier, especially when they're younger or don't get as good as nutrition. They can look somewhat similar to a small hive beetle larvae, but they're still quite a bit bigger, at least double the size typically. And the wax moths, both types have a kind of amber looking head that's very pronounced, and the small hive beetle larvae do not have that big amber looking head. So quite a bit different looking once you get used to it. So one of the things that we'll be having at our conference this year, I'm really excited about, is these handbooks that are going to come in every bag, and they literally have pictures of like everything from um, mites to what they look like to wax moth, small hive beetle larvae, the differences. And it's just a great handbook on identifying things in the hive that doesn't take up a lot of space, but is going to provide a lot of value. Our conference is all about education, and this is one of the things that we will have for everybody that comes. So, really, really excited about that this year. I'm keeping one for myself. Okay, lots of questions, lots of questions. All right. Will honey water from wax be melted in a big pot? The process get HMF? Maybe a little bit. That's the problem right now is we don't know an exact measurement on all that stuff, and a lot of it depends on the time of the year too. Are the bees able to get a cleansing flight? What level? How much HMF is too much? Old honey can develop HMF without even it being heated. I say when in doubt, be careful. I do know some beekeepers that feed back melter honey to their bees, ooh, and they say it works fine, and their bees do fine, and the bees eat it, but they don't do it like late in the winter. You wouldn't want to do it right before you're going into winter and get all that stuff in their system. You need to be in a mild area where they can get a cleansing flight. So I'd be really, really scared to feed my bees melter honey. Um, Anything going this close to winter myself. Very, very skeptical. Put it in your garden. That'll help or a compost pile. That sugar will breed a lot of bacteria and fungi and help get that compost pile going. Okay. When do I treat for mites with the vaporizer? Southwest Ohio. So, hey, Melissa, good question. Whenever your bees are broodless, it's always a great time to do it. I don't know if your bees are broodless yet. You can check them on a nice 50-degree or higher day. And you can do it multiple times in winter. Bob Benny does it 3 times. I typically do it twice. I do it in December here in Tennessee. But in Tennessee, on Christmas Day, almost every year, it seems like it's 50 or 60 degrees. So we'll find a 50 plus degree day and we'll do it then. It'll work pretty good in the 40s too, but ideally, warmer temperatures are best, but the bees need to be broodless. So Southwest Ohio, it's not too far north of us. Maybe look and do it in some warm day in late November, mid November. You can celebrate Thanksgiving by um, nuking some mites. I did that on Christmas Day. That was my gift to them. All right. Thank you so much, Lova, for donating to what we're doing and for coming on. And if you have any questions, hit me with them. Yeah, that's what I understand too, Gus Mitchell, is that HMF primarily is from long term heat exposure. Obviously, the higher the temps, the faster that it develops. But if I was separating out melter honey, and I think if you ran the temperatures pretty low, it probably would be very low HMF. And lots of variables. I think a lot of beekeepers, because we don't know for sure, a lot of knee jerk reactions to play it safe, which is better safe than sorry. But I find a lot of professional beekeepers do things that many hobby beekeepers say cannot be done, and beekeepers have been doing it for decades. So, you know, do you suggest insulating for weather in the 20s? So if it's 20s is as low as you get, then it's not necessary. I'm here in Tennessee. I don't insulate, haven't for decades. And we get, typically our average high for the winter is probably around 38, I would say, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And we'll get some lows occasionally in the teens. If we get a bad day, we might get in the single digits. That's rare. That's as far as the low. So I don't insulate. However, there are benefits to insulation. And if I was going to do one thing to insulate and try to keep it on a budget but get the most bang for my buck, that would be a insulated foam board under the lid. Most of your heat loss always goes through the lid, and your condensation builds up on the lid. So Insulating will help greatly reduce condensation forming on the lid. It'll push it towards the walls where it'll drip harmlessly away from the bees. And bees do need some condensation to overwinter, especially in dry winter areas. They need that condensation to actually sustain themselves. They've got to have water during the winter months. That's how they get their water needs if they can't get outside and get cleansing flights. In Tennessee, though, we get a January day in the 45, 50-degree area, and those bees head straight for the creeks and the ponds after they've taken a cleansing flight. Hey, Matt Kirkland, thanks for coming on and supporting us yet again on our YouTube channel. All right, so you're going to see me at the Texas conference. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it myself because some of the guys that are speaking there, I'm really interested in hearing, and a lot of conferences I go to. Um, I don't sit in on their presentations because I've heard them too many times where they're extremely boring. And this one looks like a lot of fun, a lot of energy, and I'm excited. Definitely excited. But since all the guys are kind of in my age group, this is the first time it's ever happened to me before. I'm speaking with other 30-year-olds, and a couple of them are younger than me, and the pressure's on. I mean, usually my competition's twice my age, and so I've got my hair game pretty good. I think I'll probably ace the hair game and the dress code game pretty good, but then the trying to keep people from falling asleep. That's what I'm going to do. Is see how many people fall asleep during Cameron Jack's presentation and and Samuel Ramsey, and see how mine compare. Hopefully, no people falling asleep. By the way, I know these guys, and Cameron Jack and I talk on the phone, so I pick on a lot of people, but the ones I pick on the most are friends of mine, or I wouldn't do it. Hey, Cayman, what's your thoughts on Super DFM Honeybee and or other probiotic supplements? Thanks. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of supplements, especially if it's hard to know if they're proven. There are some big beekeepers I respect on the commercial level that have tried it a bunch, and they're just not seeing that it's worth the cost. There are some new things coming from Pro and Super DFM and all that kind of stuff, but it's one of those things where unless I know 100% sure I'm getting something out of it, I don't like to drop the money. I'd rather put it somewhere else. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm at with those things, and the people I respect are at with that. It could be beneficial, but it may not be. And it's just kind of wishful thinking that it's helping our bees out. It's kind of like the beekeepers. And if you feel attacked in this little snippet, please don't, but there's a lot of beekeepers I see on Facebook like, man, this honeybee healthy is making my bees do so good in the spring. It's my bees are growing so fast, it's working. Well, everything works good in spring. It's see how it works in September and August when there's robbing periods, and the bees are more stressed out and there's more predation and all that kind of stuff. So supplements have their place. If I was going to drop that kind of money into something, Lewis, I would go into an Apis Biologics product, and those have been tested. I'm using them myself. Ian uses them. I've talked to the guy that's developing them, and they are. This whole supplement is based identical from all the studies they have done on pollen and nectar, and they're not adding some essential oil that's really doesn't occur in nature naturally, as far as like bees bringing that essential oil in. These are all minerals and vitamins and phytohormones and phenolic acids that are naturally occurring in pollen and nectar. And they are not only putting the same types in the supplement, they're also balancing them out at the same ratios that nature brings them in after studying hundreds of pollens and nectar to design this product. So Apis Biologic right now is, if I want to spend the money on a supplement, that's where my money goes, because I don't think you have to have a lot of these other things if the bees have good enough nutrition. So that was a long answer. Sorry. So I'm seeing some things occasionally on here about Alabama losing the football game. Well, we did lose. It happens every 15 years to a team like Tennessee, but we'll survive. Honestly, we win more national championships on years that we lose a game than on the seasons where we have perfect seasons because we're more hungry. So I think we've got a very good football team. We'll see how that goes. But hey, I'm a Tennessee boy too. I'm not a Vols fan, so to speak. But if Alabama's not playing, I always pull for the Tennessee Vols, and I hope they take advantage of the opportunity. I'm happy to see a lot of my friends actually wearing their orange for a change. Well, they do wear their orange when they pick up trash on the side of the roads on Monday, but it's nice to see them wearing this other Tennessee orange. Hey, Cayman, appreciate you coming to Missouri into the conference over the weekend. Learned a lot from your presentations. Hey, Jonathan Bennett, thanks so much. I really appreciate you saying that, and it was good to meet you there. That reminds me. Oh, so one of the people that I want to say a thank you to is there's a lot of fine Missouri beekeepers. I was really impressed with a lot of the productive beekeepers in the network that they have in Missouri. And I just love beekeeping. Every state that I go to, you find a lot of really awesome people that are some of the movers and shakers that make beekeeping awesome. And one of those sets of people is the Watson families, the Cedar Branch Hives, and they just loaded me down with creamed honey. They've got cinnamon and pecan. They've got flavored creamed honey, and this is the one that I've tried. It's blackberry flavored, and ooh, it is good and good for you. And they sell these, and this one's strawberry flavored peach. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff in here. This one's blueberry. And this is something I think beekeepers can take advantage of because I think for myself, what I've kind of without intentionally doing is you think, well, honey's such a pure product and all these junk products out there, they have artificial colorings and flavorings, and it's inferior and we shouldn't do that to honey. Why mess up a pure health product like honey? And I get that. However, that is not how the normal American thinks about eating food. It's unfortunate, but the normal American doesn't think twice about shoveling down chemicals and fake sweeteners and food coloring down their gullet. So I think we can meet them halfway with the best sweetener with a little bit of food coloring and some flavoring. And this stuff is really good. And they say it sells at the fairs there in Missouri like crazy. I think they said they sold, it was one of the bigger fairs, like 500 jars of that stuff. And so, as beekeepers, maybe we're missing out on an opportunity here to, to show people that honey can come in flavors and be more like that cool stuff at the fair. And you get more kids and young people involved and like, wow, this was created by bees. And then you get these cool flavors and it's healthier than that other stuff. And maybe that's the gateway to getting more people in and more people to buy and honestly moving more of your honey too. So thank you all from Cedar Branch Hives for all this stuff. They sent me like 10 jars and they got one over there that's like chilies and honey. And I cannot wait to throw that on some wings. They say it is phenomenal. All right. Let's see. What did I do? Went out of my window. So do you know the laws in MO or in Tennessee on modifying raw honey? Maryland requires a commercial kitchen. Are MO in Tennessee the same? I think in Tennessee you have to have a kitchen. I'm not 100% sure. I know in MO that's not the case. I was actually talking to Eugene. Gosh, I can't ever get his last name. Machovich, one of those things. We'll call him Smith. So he is the editor in chief for the American Bee Journal, and he was actually one of the he was leading the charge on getting that changed, and was the one to get that changed for Missouri to where you could get some do a lot more stuff with honey and not have to have all that crazy regulations. That's the editor in chief of the American Bee Journal, which is my favorite beekeeping journal, by the way. So let's see. I definitely. I don't know what the rules are in Tennessee. I need to look into that. I've never tried it, but it's something that honey's. When's the last time I've been beekeeping 20 years? When's the last time I've heard of somebody getting killed eating honey? Or any type of problem, honey recall. And if there was a honey recall, I guarantee you it would not be U.S. stuff. It would be some Chinese packed garbage. All right. So, Zach Heinzelman, where's the results from the OA pad? So I've got the results. I just got to get the time to put it in the video now. The OA pad results were not near as good as what I hoped for, but it was better than a kick in the pants. So we'll be getting on that soon. Count me in as someone falling asleep to Kamon in Texas. Ah, don't be like that. So my presentations, and a lot of people have not heard them unless you go to a conference, and I don't present them on YouTube. A lot of people ask me to record them and put them on YouTube, but the problem is if I do that, then all of my presentations, I only have about a dozen different ones that I do. And so if I put all those on YouTube, well, conferences will stop asking me to speak. And it's one of the things that, I look for putting on the Hive Life conference, that I want topics that aren't all over YouTube. It's kind of a double-edged sword. We want YouTube to be an educational platform, but then from a standpoint of as trying to get to speak and be asked to speak at places, if all of my content's freely available and everyone's like, yeah, I've heard that one before, it really takes the wind out of your sails on trying to do that stuff. So most of you have never heard one of my presentations. I think you'll find them pretty interesting and probably find them pretty insightful on my personality when I'm not trying to be a little bit more uh, approachable. Like on the YouTube, I try to be a lot more, maybe nice is the word I'd like to look for. But in my presentations, I try to be nice, but also I'm a little bit more forthcoming on how I perceive operations needing to run and maybe mindsets. All right. Some of my hives have the bottom deeps filled up with stores, but the medium box is light. Should I continue to feed 2 to 1 to fill up that medium box, or just let the hive go through winter as a single? James, I don't know where you're at. Maybe you mentioned it earlier and I didn't see it. If you have long winters, it's like Etienne Tardif up in Canada, it takes like 120 pounds if it's not heavily insulated to overwinter a colony. In areas like mine, though, it's more around 60 pounds. So if you fill up that bottom deep mostly full, that may be good enough, especially if you're in a mild area where you can feed bees again in late January or February. But if you have a long winter, then you probably need to go ahead and get that medium box filled up. I don't know where you're at. So Dan Snyder says, I only insulate the top and I can get 30 below. Wow. Definitely top insulation is the best insulation, especially for the dollar. Okay. Thank you, Gus, for blocking that peon that was spamming the channel. Hey, favorite thing at Hive Life was Kamon playing Rocky Top. Oh, gosh, that's going to be. I don't think we're playing Rocky Top this year, Tim. I don't think so. Hey, Uncle Richard, I'm good to see you on here. Yeah, yeah, thanks. I figure you got to, use the hair while you got it. So I've probably got another 10 or 15 years of glory going by my family genetics with this hair. So I'm going to try to make the most of it while I can. Thanks to Laurel's instant VAP video and mastery of the camera to make Cayman appear to be knowledgeable. Geez, Donovan, tell me how you really feel. I purchased a unit. It was the first time use, and I hammered out the hives in 8 minutes. Thanks. Hey, Donovan, I do really like that instant VAP vaporizer. It is, it's a little pricey, but for it is well made. I've seen all the engineering inside it out, and I know the guys that run these units, and they stand behind their product and are honest people. And they're really constantly trying to create great products for you and me that'll actually save us time. What drives me maybe as nuts as anything in the bee industry is we get so many new gizmos and gadgets that really don't solve any problems. It's a new product and buy it. I want something that makes things faster, better, stronger, something that'll last longer. Why? why have something that's not going to add value? The instant vap, if you have batteries, is a fast, convenient unit, and I really like mine. Actually, so much so, I've got another one on the way. So Laurel and I in December can have one each and literally knock through our bee yards more than twice as fast as we've ever have before. And we will take that free time and go take a nap. Oh, so Rob's on here. Uh-oh. So I've been talking good about him. Now, okay. He's going to get an ego problem. Let's see. Cayman, how many frames of cat brood do you estimate you have per single deep hive this time of the year? So it really depends. I've got some Italian bees, Matt. And I've got some carnies. The carnies, I'm probably looking at maybe a good size one, two solid frames of brood. That is max. That's a big carny hive. The Italians will definitely have two good frames of brood right now. A good one will probably have three, three and a half. At this point, though, they should start shutting down a pretty good bit. But the genetics really play a big role, um, and of course, location. When do you consider it too cold to feed 2-to-1 syrup? I'm in East Tennessee, so Mike, I can feed that till late November. You'll get some cold stretches in between where the bees won't take it because it gets too cool. Um, but late November, you can do it. Preferably, I'd like to have it all done by the end of October. But you can do it, and the bees are tough. Again, a lot of it depends on how strong the colonies are. I like to see 8 frames or more of bees this time of the year, minimum. So those bees can handle a heck of a lot more adversity and ripen up a lot more syrup a lot more quicker and deal with cooler temperatures than a little 3 or 4 frame cluster. So a lot of it depends on colony size. But yeah, I have beekeeping buddies that were feeding bees around Christmas time 2-to-1, and they said it worked great for them. I hate feeding that late in the season. December, especially with the Hive Life conference, there's no such thing as time off now for me, but December used to be kind of my one month that I didn't work like a madman. So I definitely don't want to be feeding in December this year. No. So Gus mentioned a product, and Gus did a video on the Pierce comb cutters, the 2x4 and the 4x4. And that's the kind of innovation that we like to see. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, at the Hive Life conference this year, we have wax dipped boxes, and I'm not saying I do. I'm not selling them or affiliated with this company, but we have, because of the bulk buying and so many of you coming, wax dipped boxes are for sale for $16.50 assembled, wax cooked, just like I like to use, and they can last 20 odd years. There's guys that have them that long. I have only been wax dipping for a handful of years, but I have yet to see even a hint of any degradation on the boxes whatsoever. So that's a really cheap price. We'll have crazy. Rob has crazy good deals. It's $50 off of the instant VAP at the Hive Life conference, and he also has the other vaporizer of his at a really nice discount too. So you can get caps, you can get all kinds of stuff, frame feeders, frames and foundation. When you come to Hive Life, you get treated like a commercial beekeeper, whether you are or not. Three boys bees. Go Vols. Been a long time. Gus banned that guy. No congratulations. That what an exciting game. And if I was a Vols fan, I'd be jumping up and down, screaming like a little girl. However, I've only watched one Alabama game all year. I don't have time to watch football anymore, which is very sad. Very, very sad. Hey, came and looking forward to my first Hive Life. Already ordered an instant VAP. Are you going to make it to the West Coast for a speaking engagement? Oregon Beekeeper. Hey, Bob Shipley. I saw where you got your ticket, and I don't know. I haven't been asked to speak on the left coast. I'm in the West Coast, and we um, I'd be happy to do that. So as soon as somebody offers to fly me out there and do that, I would be more than happy to. But mostly right now it's the East Coast and mostly central heartland part of the country. Maybe logistically speaking, and And maybe because my beekeeping's so different than it is out there in the West. I wish Appalachian Hivery would ship. Well, and they may one day, but I doubt it. Their business model is quite a bit different. So, like Man Lake and guys like that, they're for every dollar they're putting into a box, they're charging you $3 for that box, unless you're buying big bulk. So for hobby beekeeper, you're paying triple amount, and that's why their boxes are so expensive. They got $8 in a box. They're charging you 25 bucks. His take on that is okay. What if I only asked to make $2 or $3 per box that I clear on my end, but I can sell a quarter million, 500,000 boxes a year? That model works, but it cannot work to ship and it cannot work for onesies and twosies. So their goal is to actually find dealers. So if you resell bee supplies, they're looking for dealers, and because they're all about moving pallets and in large quantity. But at the Hive Life conference, you get treated like a commercial beekeeper. So even if you can't come, tell one of your bee buddies to drive down and have them haul the stuff for you. If what are friends for if you cannot abuse them? All right. Hmm. Questions. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not playing Rocky Top this year. I'm definitely not singing it either. That's for sure. That was one of the problems is I ended up singing a lot of the songs because one of the guys backed out on me, and my voice was already shot, and that was rough. Ah, so you've gone to Michael Palmer's queen rearing talk. Yeah, yeah. Michael's a great queen rearer. Hey, Cayman, will being too close to a busy road kill off most of your worker bees? Always a shortage of workers. If it's close enough to a highway and the bees aren't flying high enough to get over the vehicles, then yeah, you could be causing a lot of windshields to be all pockmarked, and those drivers are like, "Gosh, what in the world's going on?" It's like my grandma. Every time she comes over to my house, she always complains about her car getting bee poop all over. Well, what do you expect? I got like a million foragers over here. She doesn't understand. But yeah, if they're not getting over those cars, you'll definitely lose some foragers over that. Cayman has the jokes in his talk. Well, I've got to keep people awake. Got to keep them awake. It's actually raining here today. It's been a dry fall for us. Hmm. What is the most hives a single person can run without snapping? Wow, that is a hard one. It depends. And this is something like on the sideliner talk that I give on my lectures that I talk about is how we view things and how the tools that we have. So if you're wanting to run a bunch of bees without and being able to stay sane, then maybe instead of producing big crops of honey, because that's one of the most stressful parts early in the season is swarming, swarming, swarming. Cut those bees back, sell more bees. And instead of going for 100 pounds a hive or 80 pounds or 120 or whatever your season will give you, um, cut it back maybe a third and take a nuke off of those colonies and or two nukes if they're big enough and sell bees. There are guys that I know that run full time jobs and are able to manage 400 hives, but they never let the hives get big enough to swarm. They don't raise queens, they buy queens, and they'll go through and cut their bees way back before the honey flow, so they don't have to worry about swarming. They'll throw their honey supers on. They won't make as much honey per hive, but they don't have to worry about swarming. So that takes a lot of management out of the way. They use queen excluders, so they don't have to worry about the queen getting in the honey supers. And then all of those splits that they put those queens in, they'll save a few back for themselves as insurance colonies because you always lose colonies throughout the year. It's part of the business. And then you just sell off the excess. And then they take those bees to pollination. Well, they actually usually will tie into a full time professional, and that's a sideliner with 400 hives doing that. And then they'll have seasonal help. They'll, for maybe 5 to 7 days a year, hire some people to come in and help them pull honey and extract the honey. and they know what they're doing, when they're doing it, and why they're doing it. And so a lot of it depends on the tools that you have. They have forklifts too. The infrastructure you have, you can do a lot as one person if you have the know-how and the right skills. It's harder to do a lot of honey at that scale. Greg Rogers, one of Bob Benny's friends, he runs 300 or 400 hives and does honey production. A lot of it is know-how and tools and knowing your season. So I'd say 200 to 400 is max for a single person operation. But those single person operations, a lot of times, will have seasonal help during those critical portions because bees are really it's a timing thing, and you got to get to it as quickly as possible. Hey, came and checked hives today. Looks like 8 to 9 frames of honey. Seeing bee bread. Problem appears that our original queen is gone and little to no brood, but did see a queen. Thoughts on how to proceed? So you did see a queen, but little to no brood. I don't know, Bandit. Are your bees shutting down for the year? Um, is your other hive? Does your other hive have a lot of brood? Some colonies do shut down this time of the year, especially further north. All right. Hmm. So White's twin tree farm, Andy. Did you ask me a question? I didn't see it. I just see the one about wax boxes in Ohio. Pollen is coming in, but robbing is bad. Barely can pull a couple frames before robbing. Suggestions. Man, I hate robbing. I hate it. Hate it. Hate it. Hate it. You can open feed if it's legal in your area, and put that like 100 yards or so away from your colonies and get them hitting that. That does not eliminate it, but it can retard it. Be fast in your hives. Um, wear a full bee suit and get into them early in the morning or just late at night. It's tricky. I hate robbing so much, and there's no easy answer for that one. Hey, came and I had lane workers, and they stretched brood comb into drone comb. Should I scrape and reuse? Yeah, you can. But the problem is if they widen them up too much, they'll just put more drone comb in there. So if you've got a couple of those, let's say you have a 10 frame box and they did that to 4 of them. A lot of times, what I'll do is I'll take those and I'll put those as the outermost brood comb because you do need some drones in spring, and the queen's going to lay some regardless. And so you can put that towards the edge, and either one, they'll store bee bread in it, honey, or you'll end up with a handful of drones here and there. But I don't like it as a center comb, but you can scrape it down and then put it towards the edge for next year or something like that. Rylan Pena, do you know when you will be in Illinois? Yeah, so I'll be in Illinois speaking next year in July. I think it's the 23rd. Um, I don't know where that little brochure I had went, but I will be there in Illinois speaking with Corey Stevens. Randy McCaffrey will be there. Natalie Summers will be there, and a few other people. And we will actually have a bluegrass band up there. My bluegrass band will be playing at that show. That's July, and I believe it's the 23rd and 24th, but I'll have to look at the flyer. So that's a little ways off. Hmm. What is the website for a horizontal hive builder who was at Hive Life last year? So that is just horizontalbees.com. Now I think they're sold out right now, but they are planning on doing pre-orders for the conference. So you'll have to talk to Ricky Rorick about that. But it is horizontalbees.com. So excluders, yeah, queen excluders, metal is definitely better. If you take care of a metal excluder, they can last many decades. The plastic do work though, so if you get a really good deal or you're trying to budget, I have probably about 100 plastic ones that we don't need them now as we've got some new steel ones in, stainless steel. But they did good for me. I have no real complaints other than if they sometimes can warp a little bit and it's a little bit of a pain, but they still use them, and I like the metal ones definitely better though. Hmm. So where will you be in Illinois? I don't know where that thing is. I had a little piece of paper here that had it on. I'll be announcing it eventually. The problem is a lot of these conferences don't send me flyers. I tell them like 4 or 5 months out in advance, 6 months, get me a flyer, get me info, give me something, and some of them are good about it. And this Illinois one seems to be on top of it. They should have it to me soon because they handed me this paper one at the Missouri conference. But some of them, it's like, gosh, it's a week out and they finally get me something. I'm like, what do you expect me to do with this? Um, it's like, so trying to sell something without advertising is kind of like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. That's what my grandpa used to say, anyways. Hey, Cam, I wanted to get to talk to you about your horizontal queen rearing hive at the Missouri conference. I didn't get to. What do you think of it? Did you get good queen returns? I did. I think got as good at queen returns out of that as I got out of nukes. It works good. I just don't think that I probably wouldn't run a bunch of them. If you're wanting to do just like a little bit here and there, like you're wanting to raise a handful of queens, they're great. But I like to a lot of times move my mating nukes away from my big established colonies because I'm doing dozens and dozens of them at a time, and so I like to just set up a whole new bee yard. But they're built well. Ricky does a good job. He does have it. I didn't do it now. I only did it with the 5 frame nuke setting. I didn't put the dividers in between and do like 10 or 12 of them in there. I only did 6. Yeah. So I didn't break it up into 12. I only did 6 compartments. And I had 80% return on those, which is good. I consider it, real good, very above average. So sometimes you'll get more, sometimes you get a little bit less, but I didn't do the 12. Honestly, I don't like running tiny nukes because a good queen will grow so quickly. And I really like these days running a no less than 3 frames for a mating nuke on the low end. And honestly, for the average beekeeper who's not raising a bunch of queens to sell just for your own operation, just put it in a 5 frame nuke. Just keep everything really uniform and have multiple purposes. Definitely like the 5 frame nuke. Hey, Mark Foley, thanks again for donating to our um, goals and for educating and communicating with the beekeeping world. Appreciate your support over the years, and got to say, just thanks again to everybody. This wouldn't be possible without you. It sounds cliche and all that kind of stuff, but the Hive Life Conference is and is trying to not be egotistical about this. We are changing the industry. We are affecting how people conference. We are affecting how people market and businesses market. We're affecting a lot of stuff, and that's going to impact people who not. It's not just going to impact the people that come to Hive Life. It's going to have meaningful and lasting effects into the U.S. market as well as a whole. And I'm really excited about what is starting to take place. And I think we might be in a really nice spot in the next couple of years because of how we're communicating and how innovation and new companies are coming in and are able to market differently and throw punches. And the old guard that's slowing all this creativity and energy down is now lost in the old fashioned way of doing things. So I'm excited. Jason Powell, question: when should we quit getting in the hive for winter? Just wondering about opening the hives and breaking their seal for winter, southeastern Kentucky. So I get into my bees in December sometimes. I'm not saying you should do it without any good reason, but there are things you can do to combat that seal issue. And you can get into bees anytime. It's, heck, I get into them sometimes in the 40s, but 50s, definitely, or above. And you just got to be quick. And the main thing that you're not going to chill the bees in the 50s or the 40s unless you just leave them out for hours and hours. But you can damage the brood at that temperature. And do we necessarily want brood in December? I don't. But if you did something like that in February and they are rearing brood, then that would be a big setback. So one of the things you can do is get like the Reflectix inner covers, like I use and Ian uses to seal it every time that you put the lid back on, and that way you don't have to worry about it. or you can use some caulk. And I need to get this darn video done. I've been talking about it for months and I just haven't got it done yet. It is derived from beeswax, and a friend of mine designed it, and I need to get that in the video. So I'll try to get that done this week. I will really try. But there are ways to resale the hive. But when you should quit getting into the hive in Southeast Kentucky, yeah, try to get out of it in November. If you get in there, nice cluster, plenty of food. Why get into it after that? I'd wait till February when you get a maple flow. The only thing I do between then and November and like February would be to just hit them with some oxalic acid. Have you tried doing a bunch of queens during spring splits? Whoa, that just jumped. And doing a few frame nukes and a shook swarm after pulling honey with the last of the queens. No, I haven't done anything quite like that. It sounds like it can be done, but I try to draw comb and treat hard and just split the hives right down the middle. Oh, hey Zelma, thanks for letting me know that. One of the things that I wish I had is more time to watch some of my friends on YouTube. And a lot of times well, sometimes they say nice things about me, and sometimes they do short jokes, and I miss those until somebody types say, "Hey, did you hear what Randy McCaffrey just said about how little you were?" Something like that. And but I do appreciate you saying that, and I'm glad David Burns is going to be there this year. And something I wanted to clarify about a Hive Life is not all the people coming that like David are actually speaking. So I need to update that on the website. Like Kent Williams and David Burns, I didn't have any room for them to speak unless somebody backs out. But I did pay them to come on down, and I'm looking forward to having them because they're definitely influencers in the market, and definitely would like to have them just because a lot of people know them and would like to meet them. And so was happy that David agreed to come and we could get him to the Hive Life conference. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I've never met him in person, but I've talked to him on the phone and through some emails and messages and stuff. He came and got hit with Hurricane Ivan. I've been 2 weeks and I work for an electric company, so I was not able to restore them. How to fix? So they're on the ground. Horizontal lay-ins is upside down. Well, first flip right side up and see. You get into the hives on a warm day. Well, you're down south, so you got warm days, and get in there and see what's going on. Bees are fairly resilient, so as long as they actually didn't get water in them, you might be in pretty good shape. I've had colonies flip over, and I didn't get back to them for like 10 or 14 days, and you pick them back up, and they were fine. There's sometimes there's a little damage and stuff like that, but to the equipment and sometimes a comb or two. But hopefully that'll be the case for you, where it's really light damage and just more of a pain in the rear than anything. Outside of that, I've never dealt with flooding in my hives, and I wouldn't even know what to do with that. But I hope it's not. Hope the bees are in good shape for you, Scott. Christopher Palmer came in. I teach beginners, I commonly tune them into your channel, Bob, Ian's, and I tell them that there are many others with vetted information, but using you guys as a baseline. Hey, appreciate that, Christopher. And we're trying to do our job to make sure that we're a decent source of information. YouTube has been used primarily as a source of horse manure information for beekeepers, and we really are trying to change that. There are several good ones out there, but we believe that, you know, at some point, all beekeepers need to get out of the basic information and start thinking about, be more critical thinkers and realize the variables and start asking the hard questions and sometimes getting the hard answers. Sometimes they don't even want to hear. And we hope that we can do that in a way that's approachable and nobody takes offense to it. But we really are hoping that long term this will help the beekeeping industry grow. I think there's a lot of room for growth, a ton of growth. We have not done a good job of advertising ourselves to the common American who needs to be eating more honey and cooking with more honey and using beeswax and propolis and pollen even. And we have not done a good job marketing ourselves as beekeepers. And we can do what we do with YouTube, but there's tons of people like you who are doing the groundwork and are of vital importance to the entire industry. And also, people that go to fairs and are, selling honey there and doing creamed honey and stuff. That's so important to our industry. And I hope you guys realize how valuable that is. And, we are the front line. You guys are the front line, and we are just the ones that are trying to connect all of you. And this is someone asked me recently in an interview why Hive Life worked. And I thought about it because it's just another bee conference if you look at it just, you know, as it is. But why it's working, we do a couple creative things like the trade show. We try to bring in interesting and fun speakers and ones that are going to be very educational. But I think the reason why it's worked great is we have created a place where the movers and shakers that were already doing a bunch of stuff, like yourself, you're already educating, you're already selling honey, you're already doing things. We are primarily pulling from the cream of the crop of the beekeepers around the US, the ones that are already going to be active, whether we have a conference or not. But we bring all those creative minds together, and the networking is powerful. And that's the true value of the Hive Life Conference, is in the relationships that it builds. And that is why I think it's building momentum. And it's fun because the most passionate beekeepers a lot of times are there. Is that bee cock made of beeswax and food grade mineral oil and put it back into a used cock tube? Hey, Hell Hives, yes, that is exactly what that is. Daniel Weston Schoenthal was the one that showed me how to do it, and it definitely works. It seems to work very good, um, and obviously very natural. So I'll be trying to do a video on that just so people can know how to make that themselves. Very basic, but can be very useful to seal those hives up if you have to get into them to throw in a sugar brick or something during the winter months. Northeast Florida first year beekeeper did Apivar treatment this summer. Did a mite wash yesterday, an average 9 per hive. Plan on doing max, but not sure. I can wait for my temps below 85. Any thoughts? So, Kent Thomas, do you have access or any oxalic acid treatments if you have some vapor? Maybe what you can do is start applying that every few days for a little while and kind of chip away at those mites pretty good until the temps get somewhere where it needs to be um, for the formic acid to clean them up. I don't know if that's an option for you, but that's the problem in our industry right now. We don't have, in my opinion, enough good controls of Varroa. They're very temperature sensitive and have a lot of caveats. And Apivar, here's another example. There's been multiple examples just on this thread today of where Apivar is not getting the knockback that we need it to. And some people are like, well, it's because it's late season. And treatments don't work typically good late in the season just because there's, I think, more mites. But there are beekeepers I know that have literally put it into packages with like a very, very small infestation of mites. And afterwards, the infestation is just about the same as when they put it in. So I don't know. I don't really trust Apivar. Hmm. Hey, Lova, thank you so much for saying so. And we're just trying to do our part. We're definitely um, just a piece of the puzzle to getting this industry more fun and exciting and successful for all of us, whether it's that's profitable or just keeping bees alive. Um, hey, so Spring Cities Bee Farm, Bob did contact me. He was thinking about having a booth at our conference, and he's decided not to. He's already so popular, and I kind of talked him off the ledge a little bit too, because while I'm sure Bob's booth would be fantastic at our conference, he's not planning on doing any orders of any kind. And I kind of want it that way because everybody and their brother are going to want to meet Bob. And if he just needs to be focused on just hanging out. And that's what he wants to. He wants it to be a little bit more relaxed and not as much business. And so I don't think he'll be taking any orders for nukes at the conference, but I've been wrong before. I am in David Burns Mentor Club. He's very kind and helpful. Sure, would love to get to the conference to meet you, Cam and David, Bob, and vendors. Oh yeah. Well, like I haven't met David before in person, but he seems like a nice guy, and he was really pleasant over the phone and very personable. And that's what we want with all of our, well, I like to call them role models. You know, Kent Williams will be there as well, just because even though he spoke at the last 2 years, I said, well, we're trying to rotate some new speakers in and that kind of stuff. But hey, if you'll let me, we'll pay you to come on out because we want you to be a part of the Hive Life Conference. And, when he's like, well, what do you want me to do? I said, well, if I have an emergency, you can fill in. But if not, just go around and talk with beekeepers. People love getting to network and talk with you, and you have a lot to share. So, um, Ken, of course, was a very nice guy and agreed to do that. And, um, that's what the Hive Life is about, is information sharing. And if everybody gets smarter and gets better at beekeeping, then it's going to benefit all of us. I mean, I don't have time to make vaporizers. I can't do it. I don't have the engineering skills. I definitely don't have the time. Someone's got to do that. Now I need someone to create the better small hive beetle trap. I want something that just wipes them off the face of the earth. That's what I really want right now. Free advertising waiting right here for it. The Genius lid that John at Hilco looks awesome. Other than $50, have you seen thoughts? I did hear something about it, Phil. I haven't looked at one, or I don't know any of the specs on it either. But for $50, that lid better be able to give my car an oil change. That's an expensive lid right there. And John's got some great products, and that one probably is as well. But boy, 10 hives, $500. Ooh, ow. You can buy like a small extractor for that. I don't think I can do it. Let's see. Kamon is Bob Win. Yeah, okay, I already got to that one. Oh, hey, Rob Cersei. Thank you so much for donating yet to us again and for helping support us. And if you have any questions, Rob, hit me with them. And you know what I find interesting? I go to a lot of these conferences and I talk to people at them, and a lot of them say, "Hey, Cayman, I watch your YouTube channel." I'm like, "Well, who are you when you comment?" Like, "Oh, I never comment. I just watch and I appreciate it." And I'm very, very thankful for that. But don't be afraid to comment people and ask questions, or just say hey or whatever. I try to memorize as many people's names as I can. It's impossible to always get it right, but I do try my best. Cayman, if you ever tried single brood management, 8 frame equipment, thoughts or suggestions? I never have. I'm not going to say it's impossible because there's always somebody that manages to figure it out. But I think what you're going to have to do to make it possible is you're going to have to cut those bees way back, which we cut our bees back for single brood with tens anyways. Right before the honey flow starts, you go in there, and if it's got 8 to 9 frames of brood, you take out 4 or 5 frames of brood and drop some drawn combs in there, and then put your excluder on, and then stack your honey supers. And with an 8 frame, though, I think it would be a lot trickier, especially if the queens are a nice productive young queen, because they just want to lay. It's not impossible, though. You may want to cut them back a little bit more to keep them from swarming, or maybe you just come back in a few weeks after they've had a chance to bounce back and maybe cut them back a little bit more. But then you have to dive down through those supers. So um, that would be my suggestion: is try it out, see if you can dial it in. But I don't know of anyone personally who does it with eights. Okay. Here's a suggestion. Here we go. Here we go. So this is something that I've seen in the past in some old bee literature that was used with Eugene Killian books, Honey in the Comb. And what they would do for comb honey production is they found that, bees are really good about drawing beautiful comb honey in the center of the supers, but they're really bad about doing it on the edge and making it look pretty. So what they would do a lot of times, they'd have a 10 frame box, and then they would have a skinnier comb honey supers above, and that way they would draw it out really good. But they would have a wooden shim, like if it was an 8 frame box sitting on top of a 10 frame box, then you'd have a piece of wood just to keep that water from getting in there. And if a little bit of water gets down in there in the hot part of the spring and summer, it's no big deal. Happens. But maybe what you could do is try it with one or two of your hives. Use a 10 frame deep for that single brood management, and you're not having to pick that box up because it should stay down there at the bottom. And then you use that, and then you just have an 8 frame on top with a wood board to block that water. And then at the end of your season, maybe you condense them back to eights or something. I don't know. Just I know guys that do some crazy stuff like that. Hmm. Think of mob like a mullet. Business in the front, party in the back. So uh, Bob is he's such a crazy guy in a good way. He's so relaxed and calm and fun and friendly. But when it comes to business stuff, Bob is one of the shrewdest minds I've ever met in beekeeping. And it's not just shrewd; it's also the work ethic is at an 11. And so it's impressive that you can be. It's interesting that he's so calm and laid back, but then when it comes to work, he kicks some serious butt. Have a queen that shut down about a month earlier than all my other 9 colonies. Failing queen. It could be Christopher Roop, or it could be a treatment that caused this, or maybe they superseded late in the year. It's hard to know. Queen issues are some of the most confusing issues that we face. If I deal with Varroa, queen issues are my number one problem, and it is darn frustrating. That's why if I want 100 hives, I always have a good 20 backup queens and some nukes somewhere, because it is just going to happen that I am going to run into a queen issue here and there, and I've got to have some spares. So I'm not 100% sure, but it could be. Hey, from Southeast Louisiana, I use diatomaceous earth in the bottom tray. Seems to keep beetles under control. We have our tickets for Hive Life. Can't wait. Well, Brian, we'll make sure to roll out the red carpet for you and give you a good show to come up and see. And um, that those trays and the diatomaceous earth, I think, are a big help. The problem is I've got all of my colonies on pallets that aren't designed around that, and so that's a big bummer. That's one of the advantages of not running hundreds of hives, is you can do more of these things, and it really is better for the bees to be able to do these controls. But I just don't have the time, or don't want to invest the money into that much equipment, and sometimes I wonder if I should. But diatomaceous earth will chop them up. Hey, Alan, thanks for coming on again tonight. We'll see you next time. At this time of the year, I will dip. Oh, okay, that's to somebody else. Has anyone tried to use a cheap temp sensor system in their hive? I have seen some expensive bee specific products, but recently came across general temp slash humidity sensors for under $20 each. I don't know anything really about that, David. I know that Etienne up there in the Yukon has sensors in his hives, and I'll be really interested to know where he sources those and how much they cost. And maybe if he's found that the more expensive ones are more accurate or whatever, you probably might be able to get a hold of him. And he could tell you. He's got a lot of experience with them. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the guys to talk to when it comes to those kind of things. But I think that'd be what I really want is somebody in the South to do this. I wish I had the time. I don't. And have someone like in Alabama, Southern Tennessee, or even in my location, do some insulated tests on hives. Get some insulative hives, or just ones with insulated lives. Maybe have some apame, poly hives, and then have some wooden hives. Put sensors in there through the winter, but maybe more importantly through summer, and see if it cuts our bees' energy needs to cool the hive down by 10%, 30%, whatever it is. And are we saving ourselves pounds and pounds of feeding or honey because our bees aren't having to work as hard? We don't know, and we need to. So studies have proven, yeah, Miller Lite is the best bait for beetle traps. I've been hearing that. I just never have any of that stuff around. Um, but that probably would help, I imagine. What I've been testing out is using pollen patties, which I would love to see that stack up against beer. One, because I think we've been selecting for, whether we mean to or not, for beetles that prefer pollen patties because they keep reproducing in them from occasion. And all I know is that they really loved it when I put a little bit of pollen patty in my oil traps. But maybe, hey, a little bit of Miller Lite with a little bit of sugar and protein and fat will entice any beetle in there. It'll be like the potent mix. If they don't die of getting drunk, they'll pig out and drown feeding on the patty. Mm. Hey, Sean. So while you said you're going to have a large celebration giveaway, did I miss it? Nobody's missed it. I am so sorry we have not got that done. We just finished up the research yard a little while ago, and I've got the data. Now I've got to get it in presentable form. Been working so much on the conference. I mean, it's 7 days a week right now. And I'm going to get that out. It's literally on the top of my list to do. You guys will hear it. I'll do a live chat about it. Nobody's going to miss it unless you ghost completely on getting on YouTube for a couple weeks. And yes, Sean, I am getting a lot more gray hairs, or Shane, sorry. Um, yeah, getting a few gray hairs. I'm not sleeping too good either these days. I'm having some issues with some of these vendors getting along, and it is starting to bug me. I'm looking to palletize all of my equipment in the spring. Won't be doing pollination and moving hives, so weight isn't a concern. Is there a reason you do 2 ways instead of 4-way pallets? I'm still undecided. So it really depends. So I went with 2 ways because I can still move those without having to have a forklift if I have bees on them. It's a pain in the rear end, but if I have light singles on them, Laurel and I can pick up one side and she can get the other, and we can move them very easily. Where a 4-way would be extremely cumbersome to load on a truck. I do have a little bit of a hand crank dolly that we use if they're really heavy, but I don't move bees a lot, so it's not a big deal. But the 2 ways, I do like them. But if you had access to our forklift, then 4-way pallets by all means. Yeah, I mean 4 ways work really good. I've had um, 4 ways. I actually got rid of them this year, but I was running bees for many years on some 4 ways, but I never moved them because I never had a forklift, so they always stayed in one location. But I do like pallets. They make it's very difficult for the colonies to flip over because they're more stable with a bigger base. So, and I like the fact that I can put them on the ground, and I can use pressure treated wood as the runners underneath, and then I wax dip them. And between the wax dipped and the pressure treated wood, those things are going to be around a long time. Hold fast. Hey, hi, Cayman. I'm one of the quiet ones that always notices this stream after it starts. Do you predictably schedule these from Northern Ontario? Sorry, I don't. Hold fast. I've been saying this for a while. I'm going to try to get better about that and pick a certain day of the month every month that I will have one. We are literally just go, go, go all the time. As if you guys have probably noticed, we have not hardly released any YouTube videos lately. And that is just because we haven't had time to film them. This conference is just taking over a lot of stuff, and I have too many bees for being able to do all this. So I will be reducing my operation to probably 150 hives, um, maybe less, maybe 100 hives. And I don't like it, but I've got to pick and choose my battles or get employees, and I don't want to do that right now in that regard. So I'm going to try to get my business in shape and where it needs to be. We've just grown so fast in the last 2 or 3 years, and I am trying to constantly keep up with it and not always doing it the best job. Alan Blanton, are there still some spots available for the conference? So if we go to 1600, which is what I've talked Laurel into doing, that means there are 250 spots left. Not quite that many. A little over 200 spots left. We're almost at 1,400 people. So, um, So, Cayman, how many young people are you sponsoring to the conference? So this year we were able to sponsor 26, but so many people as they're buying tickets are donating $5 here, $20 here, $5 there, and it's adding up. Plus all of our silent auction, and it's not just the vendors. Last year there was hundreds of dollars raised by beekeepers that brought in things that they made themselves. One guy in particular, Larry and his wife Mary Ann Sears, they brought he does carpentry and brought in all kinds of like cutting boards and different cool things, and he raised I think 400 or 500 bucks. I'm pretty sure it was $500 at the conference. It was a lot, and all that money goes to the kid program. So when the kids get sponsored, it's meals, it's their guardians meals, $250 for their hotel experience, all that stuff. So it provides quite a bit. Plus, they get T-shirts and some cool gear. But we select the kids based on what they send us. I don't want to get kids that are trying to get their parents into the conference. We're trying to get tomorrow's leaders at Hive Life, and I think we've got some awesome ones coming this year. But I'm hoping that we did 26 this year. I would love to see 35, 40, 50 in the future. And I've got some ideas on how we'll do that. But yeah, that's going to be cool. But the conference right now, we are getting 58 signups a week is the lowest I've had since we opened it up in June. So on average, we are getting mid 60s of people signing up. So at the rate that we're going, within 5 weeks, we will be booked solid. And that'll be good with the vendors and everything and staff and speakers and kids. We'll be a little under 2,000. That's a lot of people. Hmm. Yeah, don't rule out the single pallet. It's very easy to move with the dolly. That is true. That is very true, and that's something that I've never seen one built in person. I would love to see one of those at the Hive Life conference. Somebody needs to do that. Have you announced or published the schedule of the speakers at Hive Life? If not, when might we expect that? So, obviously, we have the speakers already selected, but I don't have when the speakers are speaking, like the times that like Bob will be up on stage, for example, and what they're talking about. Bob is the only one right now that I have his talk titles in. And some of these speakers, they're busy this time of the year. And so they'll get with me and I'm going to start working on that soon. But honestly, it'll probably be November before we have the topics and everything. But I can tell you that I make it a point, and I'm open to their suggestions. Absolutely. Some of these guys are the best in the industry. But I'm also very picky about our talks. We want the best. And we'll the trick is also having like Bob in this room and we have this guy in this room. And some people are like, well, I wanted to listen to both of them. Well, I can't do anything about that. And we are going to have everything professionally recorded. So if you didn't go to the conference, you can get all 24 hours of lectures very nicely recorded. Last year's turned out great for $60. So you get all the lectures and you can rewatch those over and over and over again with that. The audio, all their PowerPoints, everything's in there. And then if you came to the Hive Life conference, I think last year we had it half off for the people that came to the conference for those. Um, so, but yeah, there's a lot of logistics we're still working through, but probably November for that, and so we will be working on that heavily. I don't know when I'm going to have time to work my bees. Hmm. All right. So, kind of sorting through the questions. Cayman, does anyone sell migratory lids with foam board insulation on top? No, Three Boys Bees, not that I'm aware of. Nope. Honestly, I'd like to see a lid that had some depth that could fit like an R10 insulative board and fit right onto the hive really nice. That would be cool. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that I would like, but the logistics of creating them and they sell good and they make sense. There's a lot. Hmm. Yeah, Karen. So yeah, we'll have those videos. That's what we'll have, and like several of the speakers, they will tell me that they don't want their talks on YouTube, because again, if all of their talks get on YouTube, and that's why I don't put my lectures on YouTube, then we won't get invited back to speak anywhere because like, Cayman, do you want to talk on? We were going to have you talk on splits, but then we see that you got 40,000 views on your talk on splits, and we're trying to get something fresh into our conference. And that's something, as someone who puts on an event, I try to do is get fresh, exciting new stuff. And so a lot of these guys don't want me to put their talks on YouTube. And I respect that. It's their decision. So the Hive Life 23 conference, if you guys want to learn a lot about it, you can go to hivelifeconference.com. And also, if you're on Facebook, you can go to the Hive Life page. You can see the deals for it. We're actually uploading the deals right now. That's one of the priorities to get done this week. You can see the vendors right now on the website too. Hotels we have on discount. Thank you to the people who've donated to the kids program on there. All kinds of stuff. Um, But yeah, on the Hive Life 23 is January 5th, 6th, and 7th. So on the 5th, there will be a 3 hour meet and greet, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Get your picture with Bob Benning, get your picture with your best buddy, um, get your shirt autographed, whatever you want. And get to see like 80 vendors, 12, 15 semi-loads of product. Where I'm still not sure how much we'll have, but it's going to be well over 10 semi-loads on the low end. Massive amounts of bee gear, extractors, commercial lines, all the latest stuff. If you like artificial insemination for queen rearing projects, I mean, we got it. Yep, Ian's planning on coming. I told him, he's got to make this one. If he doesn't, then he's going to have to pay his way into Hive Life. Just joking. Um, but it's a lot, and, it's no pressure. I mean, I understand why a lot of people can't come, and that's cool. I mean, there's a lot of logistics, travel, all kinds of expenses and location and all kinds of stuff like that. So we're not going anywhere, and we'll just keep getting better from year to year. And if I have anything to do with it, so let's see here. I think I'm caught up on some questions. Oh, so sorry if this was addressed already. Just got on. Mentioned 4 grams of oxalic acid vapor was disappointing. Could you explain? I tried it and lost some of my hives. Thanks. So the 4 grams of oxalic acid vapor um, still is pretty limited. Like, it's still a flash treatment. And I don't know how you applied yours, no name, but it doesn't kill for days and days on end. It does kill better during that exposed period of time. But if you have a lot of brood, it takes a lot of repetitive treatments. And one of the things I was disappointed in with the oxalic acid vapor at that high dose is it impacted the brood in every colony. I was doing 4 grams per deep, and I did it 5 times in a 15-day period. So like every 3 days, boom, 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 and it impacted every single colony's brood pattern. I was surprised. It did, and some of them bounced back pretty good, but it took multiple weeks. And I have the data from it. I just got to get it online, but it did not knock the mites back as good as I hoped it would. So yeah, I'll get that up soon. I'm actually probably going to have it on the Hive Life website. I just need to talk to the guy that worked with me and get him to get it on a chart, so we all can understand it that aren't good at reading um, Excel spreadsheets. You should do a survey to see what people want and use it to forecast for the next year. Yeah. So at the end of Hive Life, we do a poll. Everyone who comes, we hope that they fill it out. Tell us what they like. Tell us what they didn't like. Tell us why we shouldn't have Randy McCaffrey at the next conference, and those kind of things. And tell us what they think about the food, and the audio and visual, just all kinds of stuff. We got a lot of good feedback this last year, and we have really focused on addressing it. So, our number one goal is to satisfy the customer, and when we're not doing that, we satisfy the customer. That's our goal. What's the difference between dextrose and sucrose? About 4 letters, apparently. Um, no, three letters. Um, no, 4. Okay, whatever. I was right the first time. Dextrose granulates more. I do know that. Sucrose, um, honestly, this is a Bob Benny question. I know enough to be dangerous. Sucrose is my preferred feed. Um, but when bees take sucrose and start inverting it and stuff, it goes from sucrose to fructose slash dextrose. If you look it up online, dextrose is called other things too. So that's where some of the confusion is. But the bees will invert it into and what they want. But I'm really not super good with the technicalities. I do know sucrose is the preferred feed. High fructose corn syrup, not so much. And but there's some variables. Well, we got another tender comment. I tell you, apparently everyone's so desperate um, for dating opportunities that they're even willing to hit up beekeepers. They don't even know what they're going to do to themselves if they hook up with a beekeeper. They won't have any money for anything else. Like, what did I do? Maybe we should set up like that'll be the next thing after Hive Life. It'll be the Hive Life dating app, and you can go find single beekeepers, and that way you can, take, you can find somebody who's willing to live in poverty or something like that. I don't know. All jokes aside, um, I don't know why they keep spamming our darn chats. Yeah, pick up political signs and make good covers. Yeah, you can pick up political signs and use them for small hive beetle baits, traps too. And there's a lot of things you can do with political signs. So everybody, I told Laurel I keep it around an hour and a half. I'm an hour and 51 minutes in. So I'm going to try to do the next live chat. Let's see. Let's kind of plan this next one out. So today is the 16th. It is a Sunday. Let's do the 28th of October. And that is not too far away. It's a little over a week. And the 28th of October, let's say 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll write it on my calendar. That'll be the next live chat. So if you guys want to see me there, I will see you then. And thanks for watching our videos and supporting us and all that kind of stuff. And happy beekeeping and good luck this winter.